Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode, the very first installment of Vince Russo's Nuclear Heat right here on WrestlingInc.com. I'm going to be a host on WrestlingInc.com going forward. I'm going to be involved in a Raw review every Monday night with the rest of the panel at Wrestling Inc. And every Thursday, I'll be doing a show, my own podcast here called Nuclear Heat, where I'll be covering the hot topics, the nuclear topics that are going on in the world of professional wrestling / sports entertainment. So I want to thank first and foremost Wrestling Inc. For inviting me in as a part of their family, and I look forward to doing business with them as we dive ahead into the future. And talking about diving ahead into the future, what is the future for the WWE now that the rating is down to a 2.3? I have a lot I want to say about this topic. I've been very, very vocal about the WWE product for well over a year now. My problem is with the creative of the company. I basically have been watching a company and a creative department that I see going through the motions, just wheeling out long wrestling match after long wrestling match after long wrestling match. Nobody's really getting over. No characters are getting over. There are no storylines that we could sink our teeth into. All of a sudden, sports entertainment has turned into pro wrestling. And this didn't happen overnight. This has been happening for a very, very long time. As a matter of fact, if we go back to 2000 and we look at the ratings, and they are online for everybody to see, we will see a steady 15-year decline of the ratings of the World Wrestling Federation. Now, there was 1 year in there where there was a very slight blip up, maybe a tenth of a point, but 15 straight years of a drop in the rating. We have to remember, guys, back during the Attitude Era, late 1999, 2000, over 10 million people were tuning in every Monday night to watch wrestling. That number now is down to below 3.5 million people. If you do the math, they've almost lost 75% of the viewing audience since the glory days of the Attitude Era. What's the reason for this, you may ask? Well, if you ask the WWE, if you ask Triple H will nonchalantly tell you it's a different time, which I really don't understand what that means. I think what Triple H is trying to say is that there is a lot more programming in 2015 that there was in 2000. I think what Triple H is saying is that there are other ways for fans to watch the WWE as opposed to on television. They can DVR it. They can watch it on their computer. They could watch it on their iPad, their laptop, their desktop, whatever. I think that's what Triple H is referring to. But if that's the point, then why is any show drawing ratings, Triple H? Why did Breaking Bad draw ratings? Why is The Walking Dead drawing ratings? Television shows are still drawing impressive ratings doing things the old school way. So the theory of it's a different time, you could take that and you could put that where the sun doesn't shine, because that doesn't cut the mustard here. As a matter of fact, it was Vince McMahon himself who told me face to face, Vince, if it's good, they will watch it. That is a quote direct from the genius himself, the mastermind, Vince McMahon, as he said it to me sometime around 1999. The problem they're not watching is because it's not good. It's exactly what Vince McMahon said. The wrestling today is not good. Listen, I'll tell you this right now. I became a wrestling fan in 1973 and was a wrestling fan straight up to the Attitude Era. If I was first introduced to this product as a 12, 13-year-old kid, I would not have been a wrestling fan. There is nothing about this genre of wrestling that excites me anymore. I would not have made a career of this business if I was basing my future on today's professional wrestling. And that's not only Vince Russo speaking. 6.5 million people have walked away from wrestling. All those casual fans that the WWE was successful in bringing to wrestling have all left. There is nothing tickling their fancy. You know, I was watching a documentary yesterday on O.J. Simpson, and it came to the part where later on in his life, where he went to court, he went in front of a judge when he robbed somebody of gunpoint of all his old sports memorabilia. And the judge looked at OJ and said, OJ, listen, we got either one of two things here. We got either a case of arrogance or a case of ignorance. One of the two. It's the same thing with the WWE. The only thing is, I can't believe it's ignorance. I worked with Vince McMahon. I worked with Triple H. I worked with Stephanie McMahon. These are not ignorant people by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, these are very smart, very educated people in the wrestling business. So all that's left is arrogance. And what arrogance means is we're going to do it our way. This is the way we believe it should be, and you're going to eat it, and you're going to swallow it, and you're going to like it. That's arrogance. That's what the wrestling business used to be built on, but you can't tell a viewing audience in 2015 with hundreds of choices on a Monday night that you're going to watch this and you're going to like it. Because if they don't like it, they're going to tune out and they're going to watch something else. And that's exactly what's been going on week after week after week after week. Now, we're at a 2.3 now. If you ask me, I say at 2.0, especially 1.9, the sirens start sounding, and all of a sudden, there's going to be a lot of executives down at the USA Network looking at each other saying, what happened to the mighty and powerful WWE that rating is now below a 2.0? And I think at that point in time, there's going to have to be some explaining to do. Now, from what I'm hearing on the inside, Vince is upset. Vince is irate. Vince is putting all kinds of pressure on the writing team. Listen, let me tell you something. It's not the writing team. The writing team are puppets. People within the WWE have told me that all the writing team is trying to do is please Vince McMahon so they can keep their jobs. In other words, they're trying to write a product that a 70-year-old man would enjoy, hence the problem with the ratings. The WWE audience does not consist of 70-year-old rich males. That's not the audience. So if you have 25 writers writing for that demographic to make Vince happy, to get a chuckle out of Vince, to make sure that their jobs are secure, the rest of the audience are going bye-bye. And that's exactly what happened. And here's the one underlining thing that I don't understand and will never understand, and I struggle with every single day. If you go back and you look at history and you look at the number that the WWE pay-per-views used to do, you can clearly see where MMA came along, and MMA basically took no prisoners. They took the pay-per-view business from the WWE. That is documented. You can go look up the numbers and you can see for yourself what the WWE used to draw, what they started drawing when the UFC came into town, and now what they're drawing today based on the success of the UFC. UFC is still drawing ridiculous numbers when it comes to pay-per-view. Okay, why do I bring up the UFC? Because it's really, really simple why I bring it up. This is a business that makes a living out of real fights inside an octagon. They are real fights. There are people getting hurt. There are people getting busted open. There are broken bones, and there is a great measure of violence in a lot of these matches. The WWE, with all due respect to all the competitors that compete, entertainers that compete, these are choreographed fights. Everybody on this planet in 2015, if you're over the age of 9, you know these fights are choreographed. So now you got to ask yourself the question, why am I going to pay to see a fake fight when I can see a real fight? That's why the pay-per-view buys and the popularity has gone over to UFC. So now you would think, if I am the professional wrestling business, unless I change the rule and the fights become a shoot and they're no longer choreographed and there's no longer laid out and there are no longer agents, unless the fights are going to be a shoot, then we got to go the other way. We got to go back to the roots of what brought wrestling to the dance in the first place. And what brought wrestling to the dance in the first place was the entertainment aspect of the business. The characters of the business, larger than life, over the top. The spectacle, the lights, the camera, the action, the pomp, the circumstance, the characters, and the storylines. That's what drew me as a 12-year-old kid, and that's what drew everybody after me. You can go back to WrestleMania 1. Look at all your WrestleManias up until 2000. Look at the cast of characters on the card. All of them were unique. All of them had a story. All of them were different. I'm talking about people like Rowdy Roddy Piper, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Junkyard Dog, Jake the Snake Roberts, Demolition, Ted DiBiase, the British Bulldogs. I can go on and on and on and on forever. King Kong Bundy, Big John Studd. I can go sit here and go on all day. Everybody had a character. Everybody had a gimmick. We were emotionally involved in these characters and the stories. That's what professional wrestling was built on. And I can remember back in the day when I was working for the WWE, we were told to ignore the internet. Don't read what the internet is saying. That is the minority with the loudest voice. Those are traditional wrestling fans that are going to watch the product no matter what. The internet wrestling community will tune in to watch every wrestling show as long as the name wrestling is in the headline. You have those people. They will always be there. They will watch the show on Monday, bitch about it on Tuesday, watch it the next Monday, bitch about it on Tuesday, watch it the next Monday, bitch about it on Tuesday, but they will always be there. They are not going anywhere. The key to the success is to go out and get those casual television viewers and make wrestling cool again. That's what the Attitude Era was all about. That's how we were able to go from a 2.5 to This Is Your Life Rock, which was an 8.4, I believe. We brought in the casual viewing audience. Now, I will tell you, I watched it happen. I watched it develop. It was around the Royal Rumble time in a very hostile environment in Philadelphia when they booed Roman Reigns out of the building, the next big baby face for the WWE. And there's an easy explanation to that. Anybody can tell you why that happened. It had a lot to do with putting Daniel Bryan in that match, which they didn't have to put him in, having him eliminated, leaving Reigns in there with 3 other guys that had no chance of winning the match. So they put Reigns in a horrible position. The people booed him out of the building. From that day on, from where I sit, my professional opinion is that the WWE has been catering to the internet wrestling community, the small audience with the large voice. Everything they said they would never do, now they're doing. They're catering to that crowd, which they already have. The casual fans are no longer there. If you're not a wrestling fan, you're not going to sit there and watch a 3-hour show of which 2.5 hours is wrestling. You're looking for the storylines, the backstage promos, what's happening out of the building, the character development. That's what you're looking for if you're a casual fan. That doesn't exist anymore. Somehow, some way, the WWE have convinced themselves that if you put 2 wrestlers out in that ring and the wrestlers have a good match, then the wrestlers are going to get over. Somehow they've convinced themselves of that. Was Hulk Hogan a good wrestler by any stretch of the imagination? Wrestling alone is not going to get anybody over. I don't care who you are. Seth Rollins is a great wrestler. Seth Rollins is not over. The reason Seth Rollins is not over is because Creative has butchered his character. He's got more personalities than Sybil. You know, one week he's running away. The next week he's standing up to Dean Ambrose. The next week he's running away. The next week he's standing up to Triple H. There have been so many changes with this Seth Rollins. There is no way anybody in the audience can be emotionally attached to him. You have to compare a Seth Rollins to a Shawn Michaels. You want to see the difference in what I'm talking about? Go back to the Attitude Era and watch when Shawn Michaels was the champion. Watch the consistency of his character. He always stayed true to himself. Seth Rollins is a Duncan yo-yo. It's up and down, up and down, up and down. And as I said a million times before, Seth Rollins does not write the television. He is not responsible for that. So now we're down to a 2.3. The 1.9 is the danger zone because I promise you, as much as the WWE tells us that ratings don't count anymore, let that rating go to a 1.9 and let's see what USA Network has to say about that. You know, I just met with a general manager of a radio station, multiple stations out here in Colorado. The first conversation we had, all he talked about were ratings and numbers, ratings and numbers, ratings and numbers, which tell me that's still all that matters to television networks today are numbers. We're down to a 2.3. We are very, very, very close to the danger zone. My recommendation, Vince McMahon, go back to what brought you to the dance. If you've got to sit there in your mansion by yourself eating popcorn or whatever it is that you eat, celery sticks, carrot sticks, who knows? Whatever it is, protein bars, protein shakes, if you need to sit there by yourself and watch hours and hours and hours of the Attitude Era to remind you how to develop characters and how to tell stories and how to get the audience emotionally involved, then I recommend to you maybe that's what you do, and maybe you need to do that sooner rather than later. If the WWE continues to go down this path, the rating is going to continue to slide. It slid for 15 freaking years. Something needs to be done. Somebody needs to stand up. Somebody needs to say, what the hell is going on here? And apparently, nobody is doing that. So listen, I'm going to be the first to say, I would never in a million years want the WWE to go out of business. I would never root for them to go out of business. Without the WWE, there is no wrestling. I've been saying this for the last 6 months. They're turning themselves into a niche market. I don't know if the wrestling business can survive only playing to a niche market. So as much as I don't want them to, ever to go out of business, which would never happen, even me saying that, I would never believe that would happen. But the fact is, it's their own fault. They're doing it to themselves. And here's the funny thing. Nobody looks at those numbers. Nobody studies those numbers. Nobody's looking at who's getting over and who's not. If they're getting over, put more of them on TV. If they're not, take them off TV. There is a science to television numbers. During the Attitude Era, we worked towards the numbers. We worked with the numbers. It wasn't our opinions. Our opinions didn't matter. Vince McMahon's opinions doesn't matter. Stephanie's opinion, Triple H's opinion. Nobody's opinion matters. All that matters are the hard facts that you have, and those are the ratings. That tells you who's watching and why they're watching, who's turning off and why they're turning off. If you just throw those numbers out the window and have no regard to them whatsoever, why would the ratings turn around? It's like having a losing baseball team. If you're having a losing baseball team, you keep the manager there, you put the same players on the field. Is that baseball team miraculously going to turn it around and become world champs? The answer to that is no. The WWE has a lot of work ahead of them. I recommend that they start soon. Let's look at my second case in point today, TNA. A comment by Dixie Carter that a big announcement is coming Monday after Bound for Glory on Sunday. Listen, man, you know about the boy that cried wolf. The wolf's coming, the wolf's coming, the wolf's coming. Nobody believed. Everybody would run and see the wolf would come, the wolf would come, the wolf would come. There was never no wolf. No wolf. The boy was crying wolf. Finally, the wolf was coming, and the boy cried, here comes the wolf, here comes the wolf, here comes the wolf. Because there were so many false starts, nobody came. And who knows what that wolf did to the little boy? That part of the story, I don't know. I never saw that part. And what did he eat him? I don't know what he did with him. But Dixie Carter, with her big announcements, has used this card so many times with the announcements not even being a fart in church. I don't think the WWE, the TNA has ever made a big announcement. Hogan and Bischoff, okay, I'll give you that. Outside of that, what was such a big announcement that we had to set up days in advance only to be disappointed? I have a feeling it's another one of those. Listen, none of us here on the outside know what's going on with TNA. I'll be honest with you, I don't care enough to try to find out. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Like the WWE, I have a lot of friends that work at TNA. I have a lot of friends that have families to support, and I want them to be able to earn an income. But much like the WWE, TNA has done this to themselves. It's nobody else's fault. Everything starts at the top. So they've done this to themselves. Now, from what I understand, yesterday's show was the last show that they had in the can. As of today, there are no television tapings on the docket. Now, perhaps that's Dixie's big announcement. There's been a lot of talk about TNA going to India and a lot of talk about them shooting television in India. Now, let's look at the facts here. A lot of what I'm reading, if true, and we don't know if this is true, but if true, Destination America has given TNA to the end of the year. That's what we're hearing. That's the rumor. Nobody from TNA, nobody from Destination America has come forward to say differently. So you have to believe there is some truth to that. So now put yourself in TNA's position. If I know I'm done at the end of the year with Destination America and I don't have another network to go to, why on earth am I going to invest the money to produce television for October, November, and December when no matter how good that television is, it doesn't matter? And television is not cheap. And right now, TNA is cutting every nickel and dime they possibly can. So what I believe is going to happen is TNA shoots a lot of pay-per-views for other countries, across the globe. And, it's basically straightforward matches. And a lot of these matches we've never seen before. So if you ask me, I believe that those last 12 weeks of TNA programming will probably be random matches that they do have in the can that we have not seen before here in the United States. And with that, they're not going to involve storylines. They're just basically going to be straight wrestling matches to full time. That would be my guess based on what I know. Now, if the big announcement is we're going to India, we're doing television tapings, then it's interesting to see what TNA does with those television tapings. And again, producing television is not cheap, especially in another country. I can only imagine what the cost is going to be. I can only imagine what it's going to look like. Let's face it, the TNA doesn't really produce a slick show at Orlando Studios in Florida. I can't imagine in a foreign country in India where the resources may be a lot less. I can't believe what that television product would look like. But listen, we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns up in the air. I guess all of us are going to have to wait for this big earth-shattering announcement by Dixie Carter come Monday. But I'll tell you what I don't like about this. I'll tell you what I don't like. And I've said this before. Dixie Carter knows what's going on. She knows the gig. John Gaborik knows what's going on. They know the gig. Either they have a TV contract beyond the end of the year or they don't. My guess is that they don't, because if they did, there would be no issue whatsoever in clearing up the rumors and the gossip and the hearsay. They would just say, we're on board with Destination America in 2016. They have not said that. So that tells me right there that that doesn't exist. So if that doesn't exist, they know that. Here's the real big issue I have as somebody who used to work there. The issue I have is keeping the boys and the girls in the dark with what's going on at TNA. This is their livelihood. They depend on this paycheck. They need this to take care of their families. And every single one of these guys is in the dark. They have no idea what's going on, when I believe that Dixie Carter and John Gaborik do. I think that's bad business. But again, bad business is exactly what got TNA in this spot in the first place. But we'll see how it pans out. We'll see what the big announcement is. So that's it, everybody. That's my first episode here on WrestlingInc.com. Vince Russo's Nuclear Heat. And that's exactly what I'm going to be delivering every Thursday right here on WrestlingInc.com. Now, remember, you could tune in Monday after Raw to Wrestling Inc., hear the wrap-up show. I'll be on there with a few other guys from the network, and we'll be talking shop. Outside of that, you can follow me every single week by going to vincerussobrand.com. Sunday through Saturday, I am there talking about something. So until next time, I'll see you in the arena.